This is Julia James Davis, and welcome to The War on Beauty. 8 months ago, I started this channel, The War on Beauty, around one question, which is, why is everything so ugly? And this may sound like a very rage-baity or reactionary question, but it's actually a genuine question that I had and currently still am exploring in this channel. It's why is all of our art, all of our fashion, our architecture, our music, our books, everything in our society now in the West so devoid of beauty? Why is all of the beauty that we see in old photos or old works of art or buildings, why is it not in our world today? Why is it seemingly extinct almost? We're incapable of creating beauty on that level anymore. So when I started this channel, my hypothesis was that because beauty has the power, true transcendent beauty has the power to convert people's hearts and uplift them to God, that this is why beauty was something dangerous and that the woke ideology wished to destroy it and erase it completely. That beauty is really a necessary component to a thriving human. Our human souls need beauty, whether that be a beautiful sunset or beautiful buildings, and that the destruction and erasure of all beauty led to the destruction and oppression of people. And my original hypothesis in my first video, which I'm going to link below, basically concluded that the war on beauty, the removal of beauty, is a main weapon of the political, social, and spiritual repression and destruction in our current crisis period right now in the West specifically. And I still absolutely concur with that original hypothesis, but my understanding has inevitably evolved over these past 9 months, the more that I learn about the war on beauty and go further into my research on the topic. But before we dive into what the war on beauty is, I just want to quickly reintroduce myself. My name is Julia James Davis, and I come from kind of a unique background of an education in art and also kind of my family background. So I got my bachelor's degree in art history from USC, and I also attended the Sotheby's Institute of Art in London. But really beyond that, I spent my whole life studying and just absolutely loving art. It was my obsession from the time I could even remember. Every single weekend, my mom would take me to the museum in Houston, the MFA, which is where I grew up. And I was also so blessed to be able to travel all around the world from a really young age to Versailles, the Vatican, Musée d'Orsay, Giverny, and all of these encounters with true and extraordinary beauty left such an indelible mark on me growing up and really shaped who I turned out to be. And then when I kind of got older, around high school, I really shifted my study, I guess you could say, to post-war contemporary art. So I loved all things modern, which if you watch my channel, you might be surprised by that. I even had my dad drive me like 8 hours from Houston to Marfa so I could go to the Chinati Art Foundation and see all of the Donald Judd and all of those contemporary artists. And I even in college worked at Gagosian Gallery, which is the foremost important art gallery for post-war contemporary. So I absolutely loved it. And then after college, I revived my great-grandfather Jack's dress company, J-Day, which remains my main job. Jack is my paternal great-grandfather, and his son Marvin was one of the country's most prolific wildcatters. So he was an oil man, and then after that, he translated that success into an incredible real estate and entertainment empire, buying 20th Century Fox, the Beverly Hills Hotel, and he also built some of the most important buildings in America. Along with that, my grandparents were prolific art collectors, and so that gave me the ability to spend time with art in such a personal and intimate way. All this being said, so I loved art always, and my mom was raised in a non-religious background, but her mom baptized her Catholic as an infant. And then my father was raised Jewish, and so my mom converted when she met my father and they got married, and I was raised in kind of a secular Jewish, culturally Jewish background, which that's a lot to explain, but I'll explain why it's important, and I'll link a video about my whole conversion process below, so you can go watch that if you're interested. Basically, after I graduated college, I converted to Catholicism, which truly changed how I see the world and art and our culture so much. I began to see, almost suddenly, the war on beauty happening in the world. And I think that this is because the Catholic Church is truth, it is goodness, and it is beauty itself. And so when you put on those spiritual glasses, it's like you were blind before to what was going on in the most small ways. And so as my values changed with becoming Catholic, so did my perception of the world. And that's where I think the link between ideology and aesthetics really is so impossible to ignore. But before we go any deeper into what the war on beauty is, we have to define quickly and in simple terms what is beauty, because it's something so incredibly misunderstood by our culture. Beauty is basically truth and goodness. It's importantly also something objective, just as truth is objective. And real beauty points beyond itself to God, who is the author of all beauty. And so because of this, because beauty and truth are synonymous, which ultimately is God, God is truth, and beauty points to Him, real beauty, it is actually one of the most powerful tools of conversion to God and to Christ that we have. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and it literally hits straight to the heart and can cause an instant conversion to Him. As it says in the Catholic Catechism, sacred art is true and beautiful when its form corresponds to its particular vocation, evoking and glorifying in faith and adoration the transcendent mystery of God. So I think this is so interesting because it's basically that art has a purpose, that beauty has a purpose, which is to glorify God and to inspire adoration of Him. True beauty is something that is transcendent. It moves you beyond this here and now material, worldly plane and lifts you up through your heart, bypassing the brain and the ego, directly to something higher, to God. So ultimately, beauty is something that can increase your consciousness. It's an awakening of something within. That's where God lives, in your heart. And so beauty really hits straight at that. And it is something a little bit elusive to define. Like it says in the quote that I just said, sacred art is true and beautiful and evokes the transcendent mystery of God. In a way, it is something mysterious. Like you can't put your finger on beauty. It's really hard. And that's why it's kind of like when you see it, you recognize it. And when it's not there, you also recognize it. And so this is where the war on beauty comes in. Beauty and truth and goodness along with it have been replaced with intentional ugliness and deception that lures people to apathy and ultimately a life of never looking up and never feeling love. And so originally, when I first started the war on beauty, I saw the war on beauty from our current culture war level, which was basically the proliferation of immoral music, pornography, movies and TV that teach degenerate values, feminism, rampant crime, skyrocketing physical and mental illness, materialism, atheism, addiction, abortion, and constant literal warfare, and also the copy and paste box architecture ruining America's cities. All of this I connected to the woke takeover of our culture. And I think it's really interesting that they use the word woke to make you think that those are the ways that you will awaken, but they're actually the ways that put you further into sleep and into a state of being controlled and controllable. So the thing that kind of changed in my research and all these months of doing the War on Beauty was a discovery of the fact that the War on Beauty is nothing new. Rather, the War on Beauty is a total war that has been going on for centuries. It's not something political or financial or cultural or philosophical. Rather, the war on beauty is a spiritual one, boiling down to a battle of good versus evil. And from that one central space of it being a spiritual war, then it takes all the other avenues of art, architecture, fashion, education, and it corrupts society from this one central standpoint. So all of our architecture or our fashion, any of those things, is because that is the byproduct of a spiritual problem, of a spiritual battle between good versus evil. And so that has been going on for centuries, from the Protestant Reformation to the French Revolution to the development of Marxism and the revolutions that inspired, to atheist humanism and the most recent iteration of wokeism. And so that is basically just a very top line reintroduction to the war on beauty, what beauty is and what's going on. But I think since 9 months later, a lot has actually changed that gives me a lot of hope. First of all, there has been a major backlash against all of that wokeism that kind of led to the war on beauty and has caused and led to a huge revival of faith in the West, specifically, which is where the war on beauty is centralized. And that brings me to the solution, which is an individual solution to a collective problem. The only way that we are going to make any progress in fighting back in this war on beauty is if each and every single one of us connects to truth, which is therefore connecting to beauty, that is God. By returning to the one source of truth and beauty, the original Church of Christ, which is the Catholic Church. We all have to first convert our hearts to Him, and well, that happens by God's grace, but that is how we are going to make any impact in what is going on. So it starts with ourselves, and that is how we can change the collective and our whole world. If that sounds interesting to you, this is such a broad video, and I hope that it explained a little bit about what the war on beauty is. But my whole channel goes into specific topics, from music to literature to language to even like traveling at the airport, and art in really specific ways, breaking down what is going on with the war on beauty at all of these levels in society based on the truth of Catholicism and Catholic teachings, which I think is the only North Star for how we can potentially get out of this. So if that sounds interesting to you, please do like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos. And I hope that you enjoyed this one, and I thank you so much to all of the people who've recently subscribed to this channel. I am so grateful, and I will see you in the next video.